History of English Poetry, Part 3. The Age of Revival or Renaissance. So, in the previous video, I explained that after the death of Chaucer, the period was barren. There was no significant literary output. That is why that period is called the Barren Age. And after the Barren Age, there was a revival. There was a Renaissance. That is the period from 1500 to 1660. It is also called the early modern period or the Renaissance. So the Renaissance period can be divided into four. The first part is from 1558 to 1603. That is the Elizabethan age. So in your syllabus, there are two poets from this period, Edmund Spenser and William Shakespeare. They belong to the Elizabethan age. And after the Elizabethan age, there was a Jacobean age from 1603 to 1625. Then came the Caroline age from 1625 to 1649. Then the Commonwealth period from 1649 to 1660. So these three periods, that is Jacobean age, Caroline age and Commonwealth period, can be together called the Puritan age. So from the Puritan age, four poets are included in your syllabus: John Donne, George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, and John Milton. The Renaissance. So let us see the features of this period. What is Renaissance and what effect Renaissance had on literature? There was a gradual enlightenment of the human mind after the darkness of the Middle Ages. Especially after the barren period, barren age, there was a gradual enlightenment. In this period, the Renaissance took place. Renaissance means rebirth. Renaissance took place and broadened the general outlook of people. Renaissance is the name applied to the period of European history following the Middle Ages. It is the moment of transition from the Middle Ages to the modern world. This Renaissance period is from the 16th to 17th centuries. Renaissance is said to have begun in Italy, not in Europe, in Italy in the late 14th century, and then it spread to other countries of the Western Europe. Renaissance was the result of various series of events that followed and accompanied one another from the 14th to the beginning of the 16th century. The spread of Renaissance, you can see in the picture given here. It spread from Italy to the rest of the Western Europe. Here you can see Italy. From Italy it spread to other countries and to England. The Age of Revival, more features of the Renaissance period. So during this period, how did Renaissance begin? Constantinople was the then capital of Roman Empire. As before British Empire, Europe was under the Roman Empire, and Constantinople was the capital of Roman Empire. And during the Renaissance period, during the Middle English period, or during the beginning of the modern English period, there was an attack on Constantinople, and Constantinople fell. Constantinople was the seat of learning and knowledge. There were many scholars in Constantinople, and as it fell, the scholars from Constantinople fled to different parts of Europe. And as they fled, they took with them the ancient Greek and Roman literature. Those scholars had profound influence on the poets of this period. During the Renaissance period, the European arts of painting, sculpture, architecture, and literature reached an eminence. that is Renaissance meaning rebirth, had an influence on every walk of life. However, the development came late to England, and in the 16th century, it came late in the 16th century and flowered during the Elizabethan and Jacobean periods. And during the Renaissance period, it was a time of immense change in Britain. The introduction of printing press happened, then the Reformation, the translation of the Bible into English, and also the birth of what would become the British Empire. So before British Empire, it was the Roman Empire. So the birth of British Empire took place during the Renaissance period. The Renaissance kindled a kind of wild fire of knowledge, and that fire kept on burning for several centuries. And it had its fullest flowering in the 16th century. English Chaucerians. Chaucer was a poet of the Middle English period, and he is known as the father of English poetry. And there were some poets who imitated Geoffrey Chaucer. The English Chaucerians is the name given to them, a group of 15th and 16th century poets whose works were influenced by Geoffrey Chaucer. They used Chaucerian diction and phraseology or poetic forms. Diction meaning the language, the words used by Chaucer, Chaucerian diction, and again his phrases were borrowed or they were imitated by this group of English Chaucerians. English Chaucerians, the poets include Thomas Hoccleve, John Lydgate, Stephen Hawes, John Skelton, George Ashby, and Thomas Norton. Poetic trends in the age of revival. First one, the pastoral. The pastoral is a conventional poem expressing an urban poet's nostalgic image of the supposed peace and simplicity of the life of shepherds and other rural folk. So there's a comparison between the urban milieu and the rural milieu. Pastoral poetry is known for exploring the relationship between humans and nature. The poets romanticize or they idealize the simple country life. So they present the idea of an idealized vision of country life in which humans live simply and in harmony with nature. So shepherds and again sheep, their herd are characters in pastoral poems. Another poetic trend is the allegory. Allegory is a story, it's a narrative that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. And the hidden meaning will be typically a moral or political one. It can be a story, a poem, or a picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. It is a story within a story. It has a surface story. So on the surface, we understand a story, and another story will be hidden underneath. For example, the surface story might be about two neighbors throwing rocks at each other's homes. But the hidden story would be about war between countries. That is an allegory. Another important poetic trend is ballad, the ballad form. It's a song transmitted orally which tells a story. It's a poem or song narrating a story in short stanzas. Traditional ballads are typically of unknown authorship because it is transmitted orally. It is rarely written down, so the authorship will be often unknown, having been passed on orally from one generation to the next. Another poetic trend is the satire. It's the literary art of diminishing or derogating a subject by making it ridiculous and evoking attitudes of amusement, contempt, scorn, or indignation towards the subject. So it is chiefly literary and dramatic, making fun of someone, making fun of somebody's attitudes in a derogatory manner, sometimes in a humiliating manner. Human or individual vices or follies or shortcomings are projected by means of ridicule, irony, parody, and other methods. So it is done with an intention to inspire social reform. Thomas Wyatt, he is the pioneer of New English poetry. He is an important poet during the Age of Revival. Thomas Wyatt introduced the sonnet form in English. He frequently traveled to Italy and he got acquainted with the sonnets of Petrarch, an Italian poet. And Wyatt drew ideas from Petrarch and rejuvenated English poetry. Wyatt translated several of Petrarch's sonnets and he brought the Petrarchan sonnet form into English. The Petrarchan sonnet form consists of an octave and a sestet. So a sonnet is a short poem of 14 lines. It is divided into two, an octave and a sestet. Octave consists of 8 lines and sestet 6 lines. Together 14 lines. So Petrarchan sonnet, the octave form was ABBA, ABBA, and the sestet had various rhyme schemes. But Wyatt employed the Petrarchan octave, that is ABBA, ABBA, and his common sestet scheme was CDDC, EE. This was the common sestet forms, a scheme of employed by Thomas Wyatt. He employed other schemes also, but the common one was CDDC, EE. This marked the beginnings of an exclusively English contribution to the sonnet structure, that is 3 quatrains and a closing couplet. 3 quatrains means 3 stanzas of 4 lines each. Quatrain, 4 lines. 3 stanzas of 4 lines each and a closing couplet. Couplet, 2 lines. I've given a poem here by Thomas Wyatt with the rhyme scheme ABBA, ABBA, CDDC, EE. Earl of Surrey, Henry Howard. His name was Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey. He improved on the versification of Wyatt's sonnets. So often you hear these two names together, Wyatt and Surrey. They were two important poets of the Age of Revival. So Surrey improved on the versification of Wyatt's sonnets. So Thomas Wyatt introduced the Petrarchan sonnet form into English, and that was modified by the Earl of Surrey. Surrey gave them the rhyming meter. He divided the sonnet form into quatrains, just of 4 lines. That now characterizes the sonnets variously named the English sonnet, the Elizabethan sonnet, or the Shakespearean sonnet. All these are names given to the form modified, the modified form by the Earl of Surrey. It is known as the Shakespearean sonnet because William Shakespeare was its greatest practitioner. The rhyme scheme of the English sonnet or the Elizabethan sonnet or the Shakespearean sonnet is ABAB, CDCD, EFEF, GG. 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. So these are the common characteristics or features of the Age of Revival.